Good evening, everyone. How you doing tonight? This is Tom with North Carolina Cryptid and Paranormal Project. We had a little change in plans tonight because my guest Jack Carey had a family emergency at the last minute, and so if y'all can keep prayers for him and his family, that'd be great. We'll reschedule our Black Eyed Kids episode. Maybe the weekend next week. We're going to be off the weekend after Halloween, which is November 6th, I believe, on a Saturday. So we might probably reschedule for that if he's available and everything works out good. So, welcome everyone to the chat. It's OK Nana, Sam, Odessa, and Al Rainey. How y'all doing tonight? Well, my guest is the one and only Shel Kaoke Dion, and she's going to be talking about some Dogman encounters. How about that? Welcome, Shel.
Welcome to everybody else.
Well, how you doing tonight? Thanks for coming in on the whim. So I really appreciate you doing this for me.
That's no problem. I don't mind. And, hey, Jack's a buddy of mine. So I'm happy that I could help. And I was there to just grab your call when you happened to call.
Yeah, it kind of just happened. It was meant to be because I think I had you scheduled for the 27th of November. So we're just doing a little early. That's all.
Well, actually, that one I was going to tell you about. I'm going to come in with Farland Huff, and maybe if we could get another person in, my old research buddy. I won't say his name until he agrees, but Farland has agreed to come on, and we'll talk some Sasquatch, heavy duty Sasquatch.
But that sounds great. Yeah, I think I can have up to 4 people in this without paying because I have the free version of StreamYard because it costs like $20 a month, and I'm already tapped out on all my promotion stuff that I pay for monthly with. Hulu and HBO Max.
I get you.
Gaia.
I get you. You gotta have Netflix and Prime.
Well, you gotta have Netflix. You gotta have Gaia. I mean, you gotta have Gaia. Gaia has all the good stuff, and also Discovery Plus.
I was actually watching Gaia one day, and I was watching this really cheesy thing on fairies, and I'm sitting there, and this guy comes around the corner, and there's a Sasquatch behind him, and I was like, "Do you see that?" And it was like 3 of my friends all jump from the back of the couch to the edge of their seats. They're like, "I seen it! Nice. It's so funny. Yeah, you got to watch that Gaia. You don't know what they're gonna slip in on you.
Well, let's talk about what do you do? I mean, not many people know. I mean, maybe a good amount of people know what you do.
Yeah, nobody knows where I'm at and what I'm doing right now. I'm in Tennessee. I'm from Central Illinois. I've been in Tennessee for like 7-8 days now, something like that, and I won't be back in Illinois till like the 3rd of November. But yeah, Tennessee's a hotbed right now for activity. So I see really good friends all the way across the state, and I happen to be over here north of Chattanooga. I was somewhere, I'm just going to say this last week, and we had encounters with dogmen, and we didn't plan it. We were really out there to just have Sasquatch entertainment and fun, because it's always fun playing with Sasquatch, right? But it didn't end up like that. And I actually want to talk about this because there's something about dogmen that I've never spoke on the radio anywhere about, and people need to know something about these lines where I've talked greatly on Bettina Moss's station and Brett and Thomas Paranormal Portals about the differences between Sasquatch, dogmen, and what we call wolf creatures, and how wolf creatures tend to hang with the Sasquatch and they're good beings, but these dogmen are really bad, and how the wolf creatures will help defend them and help fight against them. Well, there's actually lines that they'll use to divide themselves. And this, I've run across it before, and it's never come up in any of my shows, but it really became pertinent the other night with the encounter we had, because it got ugly quick. And so I wanted to talk about that.
Let's go. Shoot.
Okay, so we decided we're going to go out. This was 2 nights before the full moon, which is usually increased activity all the way across the board, usually right before a full moon. And these were 2 of my students. They've been with me for 3-4 years now, so they know how to roll and silent and do everything that I do and what I say. And I'm not going to give all my secrets up, but we're just going to say they were doing what I was saying. And when you're in a new area, specifically, we don't just go there at night. My friends are familiar with this area because he hunts in that area, hunts deer and duck. And he says, I want you to go to this area. He says, I just want you to feel the vibe. And he goes, recently they put up some gates and some flashing lights towards the back part of this park. He goes, and I don't understand that. He says, but if there's anything wild out there, it can get around the mountains and it can go around those lines. And I said, of course they can. And I said, they can even jump those fences that people think that they can't. And so we headed out during the daytime. I checked it all out and I was like, okay. I said, well, we've seen a lot of breakages and fresh stuff. We've seen some fresh prints. I said, this sounds like a good place to do. I said, let's go down a little bit further, find a place where we can pull off and we can, like back in. So we did it during the day, just the way we're going to do it at night, because it's really narrow and it's really mountainous. And we got it all set because he's got this great big 4-wheel drive truck, and it takes up a spot that takes up a minute to get in that spot. And so we did, and it was like, okay, well, if we park here, we got a full view of that. We got that whole mountain range there that we could see in the moonlight. You can see if something's moving around up there. And I said, then we got this road that we come down on, and the woods is right up to the road. But now to the right of us would be some like grassy, dry grass area that if you go walking through, it was like hip high. And I was like, that's cool. That's, I'm good with that. And then we had a few little spruces out there growing wild. A few, not too many. Maybe one would be like 4.5 foot at the tallest. So I tried to get a mental picture of what I got during the day. So when I go back at night and you're dealing with shadows and moonlight and stuff, you know what you got. So to this, we'll say I always face forward is noon, and I always tell everybody I'm with, okay, we got something at 1 o'clock, we got something at 2 o'clock, whatever. It goes all the way around the clock till you're back at straight ahead of us.
Right.
And that's how we talk in the field. So we're out there, and so to my 2 o'clock, there was this like little ridge where the ground kind of goes up a little bit, and there was a tree line as a backdrop, but they're not real big trees, maybe 20 footers, okay? But it was a pretty steep little ridge there, and in total, if you're on the ground, it would go over your head probably 2 foot, so it was probably an 8 to 9 foot ridge, okay? So if you're out on the ground, it's up there a little bit. So, and it was out about 50 yards from where we were at, maybe 60 to 70 at the most. So we weren't using any rangefinders. We were basically out there to have fun. And we roll in there with just our parking lights on, just real easy. Get back in there, shut everything off, and just let all the wildlife die down. You don't just jump out, You just let everything come back to life. And usually the bugs and everything starts picking back up. Well, on the left side of the road, I was sitting in the passenger seat. We had somebody in the back, straight behind me, and the driver. And on the driver's side was the pavement and then just a wall of woods. And you could hear the crickets and all the wildlife like pick back up over there. But over here on the right side, like we had all the windows down, the back thing open, just to see where we're at, what's going on before we ever move out of anything. And so we're sitting there. And I said, right off the bat, I was like, nothing is going on over here. Like, there's no bugs. There's no nothing going on over here. You can't hear any of the night birds. It was just silence. And I said, I'm not liking this. I've got a vibe about this one. I said, let's not get out just yet. Let's just sit and let's just listen. And so we're sitting there, and it didn't take long before we start hearing some heavy-duty wood knocks at probably my 5 o'clock back behind us, and it would have been out there at least a half a mile. Well, they weren't hitting really wood. They were using wood, but they were hitting on something that was metal. It was like clanging. And, of course, it was 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, typical of Sasquatch. And there was power lines that ran through there, but it would have been back about a quarter of a mile. And that made perfect sense. I was like, okay, that's why it sounds like metal here, wood, and then metal, right? Like echoed metal, was echoing, but the wood was like knocking. So I was like, I think they're banging back way back there. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, okay, so that's some noise that shouldn't be there that's happening, but we're just wait and see here. And so things got funny. I mean, they really did get funny. And at the same time, the guy that I'm with is a veteran. He's been in Iraq, Afghanistan. He's retired from, all of that, but he's seen enough activity in his life that he's one of the guys, if you're going to be in the field with, that you want right there at your right
Oh
shoulder,
yeah, you want someone like that at your side because they got the experience to handle, fight.
Oh, yeah, they've got the ears, they got the eyes, and they've got the intensity to do hand commands with me and know exactly what we're talking about. I just love that. And
Absolutely.
so I'm out there with him, and so he gives me like low. He gives me a 1 o'clock, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like giving the okay sign that I see it. It was little eye shine, but it was really far apart. Well, when you see the Sasquatch eye shine, they look like jack-o'-lanterns. Not to reference Halloween because we're right on top of it, but they do get that kind of big eyes, and not little ones. These were smaller, and these were the different shape. They weren't that roundish, triangular, classic Bigfoot shape at all. They look more angular, upward, and canine. They just look canine. And they were orange. They weren't the amber color that you usually see from Bigfoot when they're all curious. These were orange, almost red orange. And so, but they were just glinting, and then it'd stop. Then they glint up again, and it was right over the ridge, like they're looking right over that ridge. And he said, that's probably out there 50, 60 yards. He says it's hard to say how big that is. He said, but look how far apart it is. And I was like, I don't know, I'm watching. I said, but what's got me? I said, where the scrub brush is right over here. I said, look between those two. I said, there's something there that's wide, but it doesn't look like what I see with Bigfoot typically. I could almost see ears. And I said, is it my eyes playing on me, or are you seeing that? He's like, I see it. And then right then we see a head pop up to the right of the scrub brush. Like this thing was to the left of the scrub brush, and then to the right of the scrub brush, a head pops up, and it was clearly ears. And then our back seat says, I gotta go potty. And I'm like, great. She's like, I'm gonna go behind the truck. And I'm like, no, you're not. And she says, but I gotta go to the bathroom. And I was like, all right, you're gonna get out of that vehicle, go to the bathroom. I said, you stay right at this door, and you go right here, and we just won't look. You just do your thing. If you gotta go, you gotta go. I'm like, all right. So she gets out, she does her thing, and we hear like belly crawling through that dry brush. We hear type of noise, like it's arm over arm, and like something's being dragged. And he says, get back in the truck. Like, now, turn it off. Turn your faucet off and get in the truck. And so she jumps back in. She's like, what did I miss? What did I miss? And I was like, she doesn't hear as well as we were hearing, And I said, there's some activity, and it was coming at 5 o'clock, and you're sitting out here at 4 o'clock, and that's not good. I said, so I would just kindly like you to, move in a little bit away from that window. Just, get away from that window a little bit there.
Hunker down, get away.
Yeah, kind of scoot in, And so she did, kind of like up in the middle, and she's kind of watching everything we're doing. And so I told my friend that's driving, I said, hey, you got a big booming guy voice. I said, I don't like to do whoops. I don't like to do calls. It's not how I roll, but I will do something that's common to our people and the Sasquatch people. And that would be like a yawn and just like, I said, can you do that kind of noise? And he's like, oh yeah, I got that. And so he did it. And then to hit to the 8 o'clock back in there, probably a good 30, 40 feet, we hear a perfect mimic of what he just did. And for him, that's some confirmation, because he's out there wanting confirmation. Okay. My back seat's got confirmation. She's seen, she knows she's got it. But for him, he's looking for Sasquatch confirmation in his hunting area.
Wow.
And so we got that kind of noise. We were hearing a lot of popping and crunching over there. It could be deer walking around. We're just not getting anything else as confirmation. And so what happens next is kind of like not my typical we're going out. It's more like, hey, I'm with my friends and we're having a good time. And I said, my daughter, she can scream at home and it's a blood curdling scream. And it's not to call the squatching, it's just because she's seen a spider or she felt something touch her or something like that. And I said, when she does that, man, the squatch they just pile in on us like they're coming to her aid or something. And I said, I can't do quite her because my voice is deeper. I said, but I can try. And then it took me a minute to like work it up. And they didn't expect it. And I just stuck my head out the window and I just let out the scream. And it was just a wild scream. And when I did that, it was so funny, right? Everybody jumped in the car. I think I could see right underneath their butts. It was hilarious. But what came back was the whole, like, you heard me echo for miles, when you're in the mountains. And what came back was just all kinds of calls from absolutely 360 all the way around us. And there was different calls. There were animal, and it would end with another animal and another one over there and owls. And I mean, you just heard it all just kick up, but still.
I wonder if it's a full moon because I've heard some owls. I've heard owls that turn into like a coyote yip, and then it ends with a parrot.
It was right.
It's just out of this world. It's not a real. It's not what they're portraying to be because they're just mimicking whatever they can. It's almost like we were talking a while back. You were saying like, George over here is mimicking a barred owl.
Bob over there,
and Bob over here is doing the coyote,
the fox mating, and finishing with a coyote. They always mix the animals together. Well, so that was going on 360, but what was on my right was way in the distance. It was nothing up close. Wow. And then those eyes glinted up again. And I was like, man, it's at a distance that I'm going, is that or is that not? Because I'm literally, it's almost a full moon. We're 1 or 2 nights before the full moon. This was about 5 nights ago. And I'm thinking, just stand up on that ridge. Just give me a full-on shot of your shadow so I know what you are. And so I'm trying to encourage some activity. And that was the whole reason I did that, is so I could see what is over here on my right. There's some activity here, but there's being sneaky. And you could hear again, and then this dragging noise, like they're dragging themselves and they're like doing like a folded arm pull. You know what I mean? Like they're down in that grass and they're keeping themselves hid. So they're being very covert. That could still be Squatch, right? Yeah. That can still be. So I'm all for hanging out, see what Squatch do, So I'm leaving it up to my people here. I'm seeing how their adrenalized states are. Are they cool with this? What's going on with the people I'm with? Because literally I've been doing it forever. And it's kind of, it's relatively newer to them. So I'm just making sure they're okay with what's going on. And of course they were. And at that point, I just keep watching. I just keep looking. And he's a duck hunter. I said, do a duck call. He did a duck call. We got mimics back again from the left side. Again, that road seems to be a dividing line. Mm-hmm. And it starts dawning on me at that point, you know what? I still don't have any crickets, nothing over here. Everything's feeling negative to the right, but to that far left, it's playful. They're having fun. And that's the kind of activity I like. Yeah. I don't like what's about to plan on eating me over here on my right, right here at my door. It's not feeling friendly. And so I kind of tried to whisper to them, you've got Squatch over here for sure. But what's over here, I'm still unsure of. So let's just be really cautious now, all right? Just be really quiet. Well, off in the distance, up on the ridge, I see this red, like looking orb thing, and it's just kind of hovering over the square shape, angular. I took some pictures so that people could see, the daytimes and, so you can see what I'm talking about. If you need to put these pictures in your group, that's fine. So I see over here on the ridge is like a clump of trees. It looks kind of rectangular, and it's like an orb. And I'm thinking, no, maybe that's a plane coming at us. But I'm not seeing any white lights. I'm not seeing any green with it, and it seems to be moving slow, and it's like wobbling up and down a little bit. So right as I go, hey, and I tap the guy next to me, I'm like, what do you think about some kind of lit orb going on in the air? Are you guys ready for that one? And just as I point at it, it just dropped down in the tree.
Oh, gosh.
And the back seat goes, I seen that. I seen it go in the trees. That's no plane. That's no helicopter. That went right in those trees. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, it did. And so he's sitting there and he's like, I missed it. I missed everything. I missed it. And I'm like, just sit tight. You're not missing everything. Let's just, let's just chill here. And so we're chilling, and something happened funny. And I don't even recall at the time what was funny, because of what was happened after it was so traumatic that it drowned it all funniness out. And I kind of started to giggle, and I'm one to really muffle my noise in that situation. And I'll squeeze my breath. I'll do everything not to laugh. I had tears rolling down my cheeks at the time. I remember that. But she was not quiet. She was laughing and laughing loud. And her hubby called her a hyena. And that's when I started giggling. I couldn't stop. I just like, all right, we're blown. I just started laughing. We're going to be somewhere else in about 15 minutes because this is too funny. And we just all just erupted in laughter. And then all of a sudden, me and my driver at the same time, that dragging and forward noise that we had been hearing went to what sounded like an 8-foot spider, like really fast, coming through the dry brush directly at us from all different angles. And I threw my hand up in a stop, I'm like, stop, and put a silence, as a fist is what I mean, like silence. We use classic military stuff because I've had so many military guys go out with me. It's just, I got to refer to stuff that's familiar with them. And we all went still and quiet right in that moment. And I said, go. And those eyes, they stood up over that ridgeline. And I'm telling you, they stood up and they were way up there with the trees. And they were not Sasquatch eyes. That was definitely something with some ill intent. And those eyes were as red can be. And I'm not forgetting about that red orb. And and all the silence and all the activity that was here, but across the road, it's fun.
Now, do you think that orb was attributed to the eyes that you saw? Like maybe it was generating energy to come to form from maybe a portal or something? And
it was further off, and I don't know, but what I think is whenever I did that scream and you could hear it for miles, it pulled whatever it was pulling it in and pulling it in closer, and whatever was on this side of the road was negative. And I actually felt like some pains hitting my temple a couple times. And I'm used to infrasounding. I mean, I could handle a lot of it. And so I had felt that a couple times, but that using our significant noise in the vehicle where we had everything open, moonroof, everything. So we were basically just outside. We're just sitting up in the large truck so we could see better. I mean, if you're down on the ground, we would have never seen that stuff. I mean, we would have never ever seen it.
You were like Jurassic Park in the
it's a great big giant diesel.
It's Explorer driving through the park, seeing the dinosaurs.
Oh, it's a big diesel giant 4x4 thing. I mean, this thing is, it's huge. And so it's much easier to be up in the air and watch some of this stuff than to be down on the ground and miss, because this time of year, all the growth has worked all summer long to get where it's at, and it's up at your eye line, for some people. I'm taller, it's not that for me, but there was people that were there that it would have been too much for, they wouldn't have seen. So, and I wanted them to see all the activity that they've been dying to get me down here forever to take them out. So I'm here. We're going to have some fun. And it was not fun. It did not end fun. And so he went ahead, started the vehicle, got the windows up first. And then he started up the vehicle, got it in gear, and we went on out of there. And then, of course, I'm going, I want to go back. The first thing the next morning, I was like, I want to go back to that spot. I've got to know what was between those two trees of scrub brush. I just got to know what was there, And so we did. We went back, and you could see lines in what was all that grassy area. There was actually 4 pieces of scrub brush that were between my 1 o'clock and my 3 o'clock that I had been staring at. When we got there, there was one small scrub brush and one big scrub brush, and there was nothing else there. So I was looking at beings like I thought, and I did see a head pop up that he's seen too. And so when we got there, you could literally see the lines like they had rushed us. We got bum rushed. When they heard us making noise or laughing, it was a perfect cover for them to rush us. Well, it dawned on me, how many times have I been in that situation where I've got Dogman on the right, Squatch on the left, and a road divided it. Literally a road divided it. And so I started looking around for prints that were not as big as what Squatch would be. I found canine prints. They were as big as my hand. At home, I've got prints that I casted that were Dogman that were, 11 and a half and 12 inches.
Nice.
The 12 inches are tight, 11 and a half wide. This was not quite as big, but it was big enough that it would put me in check.
Yeah.
I'm not going to play with that because that thing has got to be at least 9 feet tall.
I'm wondering if the territory thing had something to do with it on both sides of the road, like the Bigfoot were on the left and dogs when they were on the right. That's exactly. Keeping the territorial thing at bay because they don't want to cross each other's paths.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say, and that's what I wanted to bring to your show, is that so many times I've had that happen in the field that I feel comfortable saying now for definite, and after seeing that print and seeing those crawl lines, and seeing what I seen to the naked eye and seeing that eye shine that was the way it was, and just the whole vibe that was going on. He had all this playful stuff going on to the left because he did a couple other things, like he clapped out the window and he would do it in a pattern and they'd clap back and then they clap back in a pattern. And, there was things he's playing with over there on his left because he was having a good time with it. But the more he did playing with the left, the more negative things got over here on the right for me, because I was seeing that eye shine and I was seeing more of it. And then I was seeing these heads pop up. And then I seen that big thing that was just sitting there that looked so wide between those 2 scrub brushes, and literally going back the next day and seeing that there's nothing there and that it dwarfed everything that was around it. God, it had to be just giant. It had to be giant. And wow. I thought it looked like it had ears. I was not going to power suggest my student. They brought it to me. I thought that thing had pointedness to it, not like a cone head, but like pointed on each side of it.
Right.
And so I leave their confirmations come to me, so I never power suggest my own students. That's but good. I'll tell you what, that was pretty intense.
Oh, I bet. And it's funny too, because you say you're in Tennessee. Land between the lakes is in Tennessee as well, the Tennessee-Kentucky border. And that being said,
I've been there. I was just there.
And that being said, I'm pretty sure I was told, or I've heard that the Bigfoot stay on the north side and the Dogman stay on the south side, so they never cross paths because that's like their territories.
I literally watched a Dogman crawl out of the water there, like he was down in the water, and I seen him come up on a sandbar, and he was at least 200-300 feet out, and we were up on the bridge. And this is probably 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Watched him crawl up, and I was like, am I seeing a Sasquatch crawl out of the water? I've never seen a Dogman crawl out of water. That was a first. I've seen plenty of Squatch go out there, fish, and do their thing, take a bath, whatever, play in the water. I have never seen a dogman come out of water. I watched that dogman come up and then stand straight up, and then the sandbar was probably from the water's edge to the tree line was probably about 30 feet there. And I watched him stand up and take, it looked like 3 steps, and he was gone into the, just that fast.
Wow.
Just pull myself up out of the water and stand up, 1, 2, 3, I'm gone. And I couldn't get a camera fast enough to respond to me to get it.
That's quick. That's real fast to get out that quick out of the way.
It was huge. It was unbelievable, and I didn't expect it. I love it when something like that happens, and I didn't expect it. But it also sucks because I didn't get it filmed. You know,
it's usually how it goes. Usually, when you get something really good that you see visually, you're either too paranoid, too shaky, or you can't get your phone out quick enough.
That's never been my problem, you know, because I've grown up with Sasquatch since I was like a 4-year-old, and then I started dealing with, you know, wolves and howling and stuff like that when I was around 17, 18. So my adrenal states are pretty in check. It's just I couldn't move as fast as it moved. I wasn't ready with the camera. I've got some outstanding photos of dogman, wolf creatures, Sasquatch, the rake, UFOs, aliens, reptilians, you name it. I've got it. But I've seen it.
You got some good stuff.
I just was not prepared. I was not prepared at all because I was relaxing and just riding, you know, and looking around. And when I seen that, I was literally stuttering, going, the land between the lakes, oh shit, it's right there, you know. And before anybody else could see it, it's my story. Now I'm like everybody else out there that had no witness that I've got a story. That's one of them. Land between the lakes. Yep. And like you said, it was on the south side. It was on the south side of things.
Yeah, the dogman side is on the south side, and the Bigfoot's on the north side. So
on the north side, yep.
Because I know Coonbo and Bear had an outing out there a couple of years back, and you know, Bear was saying how his camper, they were messing with the generator on his camper, and he saw Bigfoot tracks about 13 inches long. So he said they're probably juveniles doing he calls them doing gangbanger activity, which is just being like just juvenile Bigfoot's just doing like mischief stuff to, you know, the people's items.
Oh yeah,
campsites.
Yeah, I'm way up here on top of a mountain where I'm staying at now. They have a beautiful piece of property. They have a lake that's their own, and the Sasquatch activity's off the hook. And I was laying in bed the other night. It was like 3:00 in the morning. I literally was just like going over everything that happened in my mind. And I'm just, you know, laying here in the dark. And pretty soon I hear thump, 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 thump. And they've got 3 golden retrievers, females that are in the house. And then they've got a male that's out that they keep out away from the, you know, because they don't want they breed at their want and will, not just let these dogs breed. It's not done like that. And we called it the Golden Girls Corral up here. We had 3 golden retrievers running around, the females. Anyway, those Goldens, and they were like going off downstairs because I'm literally up in like an apartment, you know, type area that they have attached to their house. And it was fun. It was funny, and you could tell what it was making that noise. It was definitely gang banging, as you'll say, Sasquatches, where they just go thump, 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 and run across the deck just to get the dogs going. We've heard them crawl on the roof numerous nights now, and I actually think they do that because they're scouting the area. I think they're actually protective because they're very gentle as they get up there, and it's probably juveniles, and you could just hear them lay down up there, be real quiet for a while, and then you'll hear them like jump off. And I think they're just scouting because they have respect for these people. They respect their animals. They've got chickens and eggs, and you know, they got stuff up here that if you had mean squatch or dogman activity, they would be picked off in a New York second. They got cats.
I was just going to ask, they ever had any of the livestock go missing from the Squatch or the Dogman?
No, nope. They've had no Dogman activity up here. And I literally have gone across this whole mountain range that they're on with a fine-tooth comb. And I thought I had Dogman zoomed in on a picture, in my camera, and I zoomed in on it, and he had his camera stuff. He's like, "Oh man, look at yours," He's like, "The heck with this." He goes, "I'm just gonna look through your equipment," and I said, "Now look right there. We definitely, from our point of view, and just looking through somebody else's regular camera equipment, this Squatch had a branch of leaves coming down between his like down his forehead, and it made it look like his sides of his head were ears." And he's like, "Oh God, don't tell me I got Dogman up here. Oh God, And I was like, "No, just wait, just wait, just wait." And yeah, we zoom in, and I was like, "Look, you got a Sasquatch with forehead covered leaves." I said, "He's totally doing the whole Donald Trump thing here and wearing a toupee, only his is green."
That's funny.
So, yeah.
Tennessee is a great. I've only been to Tennessee once. We went to Seaverville, which is not too far from
I've seen it.
Gatlinburg, and we stayed. There's a bunch of cabins where you can rent. And
yes, I've done that. It's beautiful.
My family I went with, there was probably like 12 of us, so we rented one of those like 4-story cabins, and everyone had like a walk back deck on the back of it and a jacuzzi.
Yeah.
And it was just so high up in the mountain. I'm like, you had to drive up a huge mountain to get to this cabin, and then park on like a 90-degree incline and just pray that your car doesn't slide off the hill. But
or that your transmission don't go out.
they were cooking they were doing like a smoke. They were smoking like a pork butt or something today.
Or ham, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, man, if something's out in the woods, it's gonna be smelling this all day, and it's probably gonna bum rush the food. But luckily, nothing bothered. I guess there's enough people out there where they don't really mess with their their food and their whatever they have out. I would garbage. You don't want to leave the garbage out there too long, but that's not your problem.
Well, that's that's a given. But tonight we found I found some toys to have some fun with. They have this place that sells a bunch of gourds, and if you go walk through this little country shop or village, I'm over here somewhere. When we were traveling today, it was somewhere by Leith Pike or something like that. I can't remember what they called it. And these gourds, somebody like cored them out, and they put they had different things that they would carve out of the front of it for Halloween. A lot of it was. She found herself something that was like a butterfly thing. But I love bear claws. It's a symbol of strength for me and my heritage. And so what they did is they had this underneath it, they cored it out, and they put a drum skin on the bottom of it. And this is a good idea for anybody listening. Okay, this is fun stuff. And then they had this really tight spring, the smallest diameter that you could get, dangling down about 18 inches, 2 feet, and it's got like a weight on the bottom of it. And you grab it and you just shake it, and out of the gourd it goes. And it just sounds so, and it's so natural, but it sounds so much like Squatch. It's not even funny. And so we bought a couple of them. They were pretty expensive, but we cool. Bought a couple of them. And so tonight we're gonna wait, till after that, where everything else is died down, and we're gonna take the 4-wheelers down where I've seen a lot of Squatch activity. And we're going to go down there and we're going to pull those things out and let them rip while we're on video and see what happens when we give them some negative sounds up here where they're so positive and friendly. See what they do. See if they laugh at us, because we're going to make ourselves visible so they can see us. We're not going to meet them any disrespect or anything. And we're going to show them what we have and how, let them see how it makes noise, just to see if we get eye shine, just to see if we get audios, just to see what happens. And if they start getting all testy, we're on pretty powerful 4-wheelers. We'll just head back up.
You're on quads, you can get away pretty quick. It just depends on which ones you're going against, because these things can run 45 miles an hour.
More than that. I've seen them go further than that. Yeah, they can. Yeah, I've been on horseback and got passed by them, and I mean fast horses. So, yeah, they're quick. But still, these guys up here are nice. They prove to be playful. It seems to be a lot of juvenile activity. I've definitely ruled out any dogman activity. So with ruling that out, hey, it's all fun now.
That's good. Now you just got Squatch to play with,
And there's a whole lake here. We're going to go to the north end of the lake is where we're going.
Just don't take no jack links out with you messing with the Squatch like the commercials, you know. You get some big boulders thrown at you.
No food ever. I don't feed the Squatch. I never gift the Squatch. One thing I do gift is things if I'm trying to habituate and after they've acclimated themselves to me, because they will definitely, you'll become their bitch if you start just giving them stuff. You wanna make them work for it. You wanna make them have some interactions with you. You wanna get to know them for a few years before you ever do anything like gifting, and then it's never food. I literally had forgotten a half a case of Pepsi in the back of my Durango one time, and my hatch, yeah, it didn't work no more. They kind of ripped it up, and the steel, everything was bent. And yeah, there was a bunch of empty Pepsis in my vehicle when I went out there the next morning, and I about died. And then after I got it fixed, they thought that, well, that was just a gateway for that Pepsi. And they kept getting in there and breaking it every time they did, to where the alarm wouldn't even work. And by the time my vehicle was 2 years old, the back second, you got your second row seat and your back seat, where they would lean in and put their whole weight on it. That bar that goes underneath that you lift and pull, you know, when you want to lay it down, that got bent like a U, and I couldn't even pull that seat down anymore. And the hatch, I go down the road and the dome light would be going flicker, 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 because it got fixed so much and bent back into place. It got put on a frame rack to get straightened out, and still they would bend it up, and I just gave up. I was just like, I'm going to have to change vehicles, because they think that this vehicle is their pop heaven. And then it got to where I would keep a brush in there, or hair tie, and they would get in there and they would brush themselves, and I had Sasquatch hair all over the back end. And I'm like, you're literally grooming yourself with my brush. Then they take off with the brush and never come back. And then they also would steal hair ties, binoculars. They took the really nice binoculars. They held them for like 2-3 weeks and brought them back all muddied up, dented up, fingerprinted up. And I'm like, oh my God, this was become the playground. My vehicle become their playground. I had black leather seats.
You gave them sugar, and you gave them that sugar high. Now they kept wanting the sugar, so they're used to it.
I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't. It was pouring down rain, and we were taking our groceries in, and I thought it was one of those situations. I thought somebody else had gotten it, and I didn't, and we didn't know till the next day. And I was like, "Hey, where's my Pepsi?" And my mom was like, "Oh, you know what? We may have forgotten that in the car." And that's when I went out and found that utter disaster. And I say utter disaster because it was an utter disaster. And then, so, you know, years later, that I parked that same vehicle out on a farm like 5 miles west, because who's going to buy it? I couldn't even trade it in. And I just went to a new vehicle. And so I parked it on my son's farm, and there would be muddy little footprints all over, like they were using it for a playpen. Like they put their little ones in there and then shut them in. And then, you know, they would have muddy little footprints all over the seats and stuff, and like toddlers. And it became I should have kept it and called it the Squatch Mobile or something and just left it, you know. But yeah, I just called the junkyard and had them come get a vehicle that only had 50,000 miles on it.
Wow. It's almost like they use it as their little nursery den.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And so never, ever feed them anything, ever.
I've learned early on, you know, with the habituation thing, you know, once you start habituating, they get used to it. Like I've heard horror stories of people getting ripped out of their houses and
because they didn't bring them the food, or they didn't leave the food. Exactly.
They'll put food out. They're used to it, and then they'll come to your house, rip you out of your house, and tear you to shreds because you didn't feed them, because they're used to that. They get that sweet tooth. People give them candy bars and this and that, and
that's what I try to avoid. Yeah. I tell everybody I know, don't do that stuff. One thing I will gift, and I won't do it from my home. I would only do this from the field of Sasquatch that I've been working with for a long time. You give them twine. They love twine, and they'll tie it around and they'll tie it to a tree and tie their whole little hut thing to it, and they'll use twine. They love twine. I tend to stay with stuff that looks more natural, so they're not given away to the average bear that walks through hiking and would think that Sasquatch don't exist. I don't want to give them up to people that don't need to know about them.
No,
You know,
feathers, and I have we collect shells every year. We go to the beach, so every summer
turtle shells.
I'll put a whole array of seashells out in like the little circle area next to a tree, and
Hmm.
that's really seems to work. And sometimes feathers from like a crow or a hawk, I'll put out there, and they seem to not last too long. Or even just basic kids' toys that my kids used to play with, I'll put them out there, and they'll be gone after about a day or two.
Yeah, yeah. They used to come up and steal all my daughter's soccer balls, and they would be flat the next morning, and she'd just gotten, and she'd be crying. And so I got those little dollar balls that you get in the store, and I was
Yeah.
like, throw them out there. There you go, play with that. You know. Um, I like to give them softballs,
Hmm.
and they would take off with those, you and I would see them then like the end of the season, and they're all ripped off, the leather, the lacings, they're all, but they've played with it, they've used it. So it's, it occupied those kids, they loved it, they had fun with it. Now here's the fun thing to do. um well, let me finish with what I was saying about the
Yeah.
gifting. Brushes. They're always forever stealing brushes out of our convertibles or our vehicles. And so we'll leave like a pile of brushes, different sizes, because the little ones will need smaller ones, but get stuff that helps them groom themselves, and just leave that out there. Try to get colors that are natural, that won't, you know, stick out like a sore thumb to the average bear. Um, we do those. We'll do brushes, twine, softballs, anything that you think you could use. Like in the winter, we'll get brown tarps and we'll just put them in a stack. And then we've also given them, like, a friend of mine used to own a furniture store, and he used a lot of, like, the stuff that you would put furniture against, like moving blankets, really
Oh,
thick
yeah.
quilted stuff. We live in northern Illinois, north central Illinois, and it would get really cold in winter. So we would put a couple of those out to see if they'd take them, and they did.
Hmm.
So if it helps them through the winter, that's fine. But no food. No, 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 no. Uh-uh. And as far as feathers go, they're always giving me the feathers. So I never gifted them feathers. One thing I want to say is a no-no for just because of the other wildlife I have come across, and this really irks me when people put peanut butter out. I have come across raccoons, possums, coyotes, everything else that's got its head stuck in that peanut jar and suffocated when the sun came out because it couldn't get its head loose.
Oh,
I
wow.
don't like people doing that stuff. And not only that, it's food.
Mhm.
You just became their bitch.
Yeah.
Bring me something good to eat, and I'll eat it. I'll be friends with you. But when you don't bring the food, are they going to be your friend? You don't know.
Yeah.
There's good and bad to them, just like there is us.
Exactly.
You know,
You don't
and
want to
they
take a chance.
the one thing that they said to me the one time that I met with the whole clan of the ones I grew up with, I was like, "What do you call yourselves?" That was the first question I asked them, and they said, "The people. We're a people too." And so I've always treated them that way. You're a people. You have your culture. I have mine. If we do some culture exchanging, that's great. But you're an at arm's length neighbor to me.
Hmm.
And I don't go running through my neighbor's house without permission. I'm real gentle about, that stuff. And I wouldn't want them running through my house, not without knocking. So just think of them as like your neighbors. Be nice to them, and don't disrespect them. Don't go out there making their calls, confusing their people with what could be their young, banging on the trees. Hey, that's all their communication. Nothing they do is for us. So we need to just leave that alone. But if you could do something that we would do that they could do too, like a yawn, a loud yawn, a sneeze, something like that that's natural. Hey, I'm all for a little fun like that. But
What
just
about a
kind of
whistle? What about a whistle?
the whistles, yes, we cannot whistle like you do. I have not met anybody that can whistle like a Sasquatch. For one, their lungs are huge, and when I say loud, a guy can do a loud whistle, they can do it 5 times louder.
Yeah, their
But yeah,
lungs.
I may do just a quick short whistle just to see if I get one back to see where they're located. You know, I don't do that at home. I'll do that out in the field.
Mm-hmm.
My whole thing has always been study how they habitat, study how their culture is,
Right.
study what they do, their behaviorisms. That's been my whole get up forever. That and watching the growth patterns. I was huge on casting their footprints and lining foot up with the same foot the next season when you come to the young ones and seeing how much they grew, how fast they grew, all that sort of thing.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Checking your growth pattern by just getting the same footprint every other, every next year. You can see how much the foot's growing, and that'll tell you that that's giving them a substantial amount of growth on the body size as well, on their mass.
Yes, and the other thing was they're young. They routinely, when a new baby was born, and they would show you, and then they would bring it back the next year around the same time, and just like show me, and I would, I'd take pictures of that, log that, keep track of that. So far, their babies are the same size that our babies are
Mm.
when they're born. And it didn't matter the size of the Sasquatch that had it. It's roughly the same size. That first year from about a year, before a year to the 3-year mark, they grow pretty much just like ours. It's about that time that it starts picking up. About 3 years old, they start getting, and some of them are really big by 3. You'll look at it and think, damn, I thought that was like a 7-year-old.
Yeah.
But yeah, they start growing quickly at 3 years old.
Now I'm going to ask you about trees. Have you seen them in trees at all, or like do
Oh
the
gosh, yes.
what's your experience with it? Is it like a daytime thing where they watch, or that at night? Because I mean, I've
Both.
had experiences where I could tell that whatever it is, it's in a tree and it's high up in a tree.
It's both. Like they'll have the watcher trees, where like if you're coming into an area where you have hikers, people riding horses, snowmobiles, whatnot, things like that. Um, as you enter that area, look for a tree that's got a little bit of slant to it, and then look at the bark. From a distance, it's going to look like the tree has a disease to it or something, but get over there close to it and feel it. Feel where it looks like it's got different discolorations, and you'll see where the bark is shoved in and kind of polished looking, about every 18 inches, 2 feet from the little ones going up. And then I've got pictures of them all the way up the top of the tree, where when you turn a corner or you just get into an area, all of a sudden their eyes will flash blue, like, I know who it is, it's okay, and he looks back at the forest, and catch them at that. It may be green or, light blue, whatever that young one's eyes are, but it's usually a light pastel color that's okay. White is okay. Your negative colors, like I've seen lavender, I've seen pink. When you see those lavender or pink colors or magenta, it's like you just get a great big dog just come up and licked your face. I mean, it's like they're shooting you the love. You just feel it. It just feels all peaceful and pleasant. It's when you got, amber to red, anywhere between that and those hues. I use, they, even when they have yellow eyes, it's cautionary. They're being cautious. And if they're uncomfortable, I rather just go,
Yeah.
because, and I've even said, like the other night we went out and it seemed like there was a bunch of little noises on the left of us and big noises on the right. And we just caught like a hand motioning us on, and I caught it and the other guy caught it, and he's seen it twice, but I just seen the end of the first, like the last one. And so I just spoke to them because they get intense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're mind readers or what you want to put on it, because they got some skills that are just mad skills.
Yeah.
But I just spoke out to him. I said, if this is a bad time, just break a stick or break wood where I can hear it, and we'll go. And 2 great big crunches came back. Crunch, crunch. And I was like, all right, say no more. Thank you.
That's my
And
cue.
I'm just out of there. That's my cue.
Yeah.
I don't want to get between what I thought was a little one over here and mommy or daddy or an older sibling that's supposed to be watching them. And that was on the night that it was a full moon. And I was like, I'm not gonna make them mad. That's not my deal.
Yeah,
So
something you don't want to do to get them mad, because you get mad ones and then they get into that rage thing, and you don't know what's going to come out of it, or it's going to be like
well,
could be a
the
bluff
whole thing,
charge, could be worse.
Yeah, you got that aspect of it. And then you also got the aspect with the dude I'm with actually duck hunts all over there, or geese, and he deer hunts, and he don't need an enemy. So I'm not going to make it, I'm not going to be responsible for making enemies for this guy, you know? So it's just being respectful. You don't want to treat anybody disrespectful. I don't. And why treat them that way, or why give them that impression? And if they act that way to me, well, I'm just going to go somewhere else, because, who wants to have a negative night? Everybody wants to have fun. It's fun. Going out at night is the fun stuff. Going out during the day, that's the research stuff. That's where you really study. We found graveyards of them and how they mark them, and over the years, we literally seen years of markings and directionals and mounds that were fresher, mounds that were older. And yeah, it was really interesting. Tennessee has been good to me so far. I'll tell you that. I really am loving it down here. It's still proven to me that the Midwest is no different than anywhere else. And I've been all over the Midwest. But and I've been in the South before, but I didn't get into some really deep research like I have here.
Right.
And I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. You gotta use your head about you.
I got a good place not too far from me called Uwharrie State Forest, which is 45 minutes from my house. I think it was on what was it on?
I've heard of it.
Finding Bigfoot went out there a couple years ago. Well, like the whole town went out. But I also was going to ask you about. I just noticed a tree, and this tree is about 8 to 10 inches in diameter at the bottom. And I was out 2 days ago, just checking something, going to my tree stand and coming back. And it wasn't like this last time I went out there. Well, the tree, it looks like something climbed to the top of it and just hung on the tip of it and bent it down as far as they can bend it. But the thing is, it didn't take the root up. It didn't make the uproot come. It just bent it down onto another tree. And I'm like, how the hell this? I was like, the only thing I could do is something that weighs about 700 pounds, and it climbed itself like a pole.
I have watched them do this. This is funny.
So
okay? Imagine our kids when they're 9, 10 years old, and we take them to an amusement park. What do they want to do? They want to get on that roller coaster. Yeah. Okay, so I've been out in the woods where the trees are a little sparse, but they're, probably 15, 16 years old, and they're just at that size that you're talking about. And I've literally watched them race up. There'd be a couple of them doing it. They're like racing each other to the top, and they ride the tree down. They get up the top and it bends, and they just ride it down and leap and jump into another one. Sometimes the tree snapped, sometimes it uprooted, other times it just fall over into another one, and that one was a head start for the next. And it's like they were racing, and it was actually really entertaining to watch them, and you couldn't help but laugh. Okay, so one of the fun things I was going to tell everybody to try. I've had another student did this that I learned from them, and now I've used it, and it's hilarious, and it's lots of fun. If you know you got a squatchy area and you want to go in there right before dusk, go to the dollar store, get yourself some of those glow sticks, and avoid any of the colors that are negative, like yellow shades. No yellow, no orange, no red. Stick to your greens, pinks, blues, lavenders, anything that's pastel that's fun. And I stick it in some water, in a bottle of water, and these little bottle of waters that, we grab like an Aquafina or something, and stick them in there, break them, get them lit, set them up on whatever you can find, a log or whatever, and then just get way back, use some binoculars and watch. And you can see them go up there, and their eyes will raise up a cautious color, and then they'll be looking, and they'll take their hands, like you can see their hands moving around like it's the crystal ball, or like, what is that? Eventually they'll just knock it over. And then a big one will come up and stand it up like, it's okay. I know who did this. They're used to me. They know I'm not going to do anything to hurt them. And so he'll stand it back up, and you can see the shadows. So that's what's cool, because it's giving off a bunch of light. And so next thing you know, these things are flying through the air, and they're playing catch with them until one of them breaks. But it's kind of fun to do if you got the time and you got the gumph, do it. If not, yeah.
So just
Keep
those.
doing. Just keep listening to the howls. It gets boring after a few years.
So you're saying the cheap glow sticks at the dollar store, you can get like a box of them for like $3 or something.
Yeah, and you can even and you don't. One thing that people leave out there for them, and I want to caution people because you don't want to make enemies with these guys. Don't be leaving them marbles. Because would you want somebody giving your toddlers marbles to play with? Do you think that giant Sasquatch is going to mess with a little tiny marble that looks like a piece of sand to him if he picks it up? No, it's the little ones that are going to grab that stuff and they can choke on that stuff.
Yeah.
Use your common sense, people. Treat them like they're your own. If it's or your neighbor's kids, don't be putting stuff out there that's going to hurt them.
Yeah. The other thing I put out too is like that monkey grass that grows and in the wintertime it dies and it turns into like straw. Well,
Yes.
I cut it all of it down at the end of every fall, like right before it gets too cold, and I'll put it out there for bedding and that stuff. I look at it; it's scattered all over the damn woods after I put it out. So I guess it's getting used to a good purpose. So not a bad thing.
Absolutely. That's good stuff. That's using your head.
Someone's asking what part of Tennessee are you at right at the moment or close by?
At the moment.
You don't have to give your exact location, just something you're close to.
I'm trying to think. I'm in the middle of nowhere. It's called BFE. You know what? I would be 30 miles around Chattanooga. How's that?
That's not too bad. Yeah.
I think I'm like northwest of there right now. I started out over by Missouri and that whole west end, and then I went down towards Mississippi. My daughter's close to Taylor, Mississippi tonight, so I'm hanging close to the phone. That's why I took your call, because it's like that phone rings, I'm on it. She's not far from Taylor. She's doing her own thing.
Taylor's very, very active with the Dogman.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know. She can handle herself. She's doing good. She's 20 and she's been doing this her whole life with me, just like I did it.
You raised her right, so I'm sure she'll be okay.
Yeah, she'll be fine. Otherwise, she wouldn't be there alone. She wouldn't be there without me. So, but we were over in that whole area last weekend, and it's all right. I mean, she can handle it. She's good. I had to come over here and do my thing, so we traveled towards Nashville, towards Ashland City, Nashville. We did some. We had last weekend close to Ashland City. We were out in the country, way out in the country, and we're scouting out during the day. And she wanted to do some sightseeing on her own of places that she wanted to go. So she was driving, and I was just kind of riding passenger. And we went down this. I mean, we were in some winding craziness. And she had to turn around. The only way you could do it was turn around in a driveway or pull off because there's nowhere to turn. And so she pulls up in this driveway of this rundown, old, beat up trailer that somebody should have dragged off a long time ago, but I think it would have fell apart. Yeah. And the mountainside went straight up behind it. And there was literally no one around for miles. We were way up in the elevation and it was crazy. And all of a sudden the Squatch was like, "Hey." And she looked at me and she's like, "Was that what I think it was?" And this is like high noon. And I was like, "Yeah, that's what it was." And so we get down the road and there was this little runoff creek and stuff that probably got into bigger creek stuff. But it was like this time of year, it was pretty low. And it was, excuse me, swallowed too quick. She went down in the creek bed and she's like looking for nope ropes. That's what we call snakes. Excuse me again.
You're fine.
Let me mute my mic.
Cough. Yeah, Taylor, Mississippi's pretty active. That's the place that's Taylor, Mississippi's loaded with the Dogman out there. It's just super active. And when I was told, or what I've heard, the police are actually shooing people out of there. If you're not a resident of Taylor, they'll they'll run you out because
She's not actually right in Taylor. She's outside of there, and I don't want to
that's
give
good.
up her exact
No,
location.
that's
But
good because from what I've heard, the police and all the law enforcement, they're like running people out of there, giving them tickets or like harassing them to get out because there's just so much researchers and whatnot going out there to try to see Dogman. So
well, who wants to see Dogman? I mean, come on. I'll give you the pictures, the great pictures of you. You can't. It can't be anything else. They're so clear. So you want that? I'll give it to you. You don't have to go risk your lives, people. You don't know. No, she's not out there looking for Dogman. She don't need Dogman. But there is Squatch in the area. There is some Squatch activity. But when we got down the road a little ways, she got into the creek, and I went down on the edge, and I was just filming because there was some rapids, and I get into the photography thing that's where not even cryptids, because I got to have my own little reasons to be out there, because you get more activity not focused on them. I always say you can't go out finding Bigfoot. You out there find yourself and Bigfoot finds you. We were just finding ourselves. I'm moving and grooving in the photography thing and the video thing of some cool stuff, some cool scenery, and she's doing her own thing. And then right up just in the creek with us, she gets another Squatch that just starts whistling. And she looks at me and she's like, what are the chances of some dude being on this mountainside whistling at me? And I said, slim to none, but we're out here, so you never know. So my dog goes, my daughter, she's like, hey, what's up? And so she got a totally the same thing back. Hey, up. That's what he says. Hey, up. And I was like, wow. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. So it's active all the way across this whole entire state, and it is a long state.
As long as you don't hear no banjos playing, it's time to get out, right?
Banjos thumping, right? And everything creaking, right? Yeah.
Quarter mile. Once you hear
gonna get shot, boy. Get off this property. There's some of that down here. I've learned that. Yeah, I heard that just down the road from here, if you drive straight down, it turns into a dirt road and you're just going along the mountaintop. And somebody had a package to deliver down there. And I guess one of the locals stopped him and said, hey, where are you going back in there? He's like, well, I've got this package to deliver. And he says, I'll give it to him. Trust me, you don't want to go up in there because nobody will ever see you again. And there's all kinds of vacant cars down there. And he's like, good enough for me.
Probably an old moonshiner outpost or something,
Who knows? I don't want to go find out. But I did get cautioned today. To get out of some of the area I was in. And I was like, okay. You don't have to tell me twice.
Yep. Not a bad thing. Well, the ginsengers out there too are, they're pretty territorial when digging up their ginseng roots because, that stuff is really expensive if you get some good.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, ginseng root. They dig up all across the Appalachian Mountains and Tennessee, Arkansas, Kentucky. They're out. I just
didn't know that people would be like that protective over their shoe after it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Huh. Nice to know. Thank you.
Well, what else do you want to talk about? Because we're about an hour and 10 minutes. So if you want to go some more, we can do some more if you're interested.
I'm good. Let me look at my battery here. Right. I got like 35% left. That gives me, about an hour or so. If you, any kind of questions you have or anybody in the audience, I'm fine. I'm good. So just you tell me.
Lots of cryptids whistle besides Sasquatch, including little people, Gugwe, mountain giants. So just because you hear
Gugwe, we're going to talk about Gugwe, are we?
Sasquatch. No, I'll just read Duke's.
And the little people, I'm gonna leave that one alone.
Puck, what'd you
I mean, the Gugwe, I've gotten photographs of that, and it's young. It pretty much just stay to itself. You leave it alone and leave you alone, just like anything else. Dogman's the only thing that'll really. I mean, everybody wants to put the Gugwe in that same category, and it's a hush, hush, don't say the word. No, it's in our realm. We need to be saying the word because we need to be talking about the stuff. It's ugly as all get out, and it's didn't have bad color eye shine that I seen, because I seen it during the day, and then I photographed it, and I seen it at night in the same area. They didn't move; they were just kind of hanging out there. And this was on my own property back home, and it was gone. Then it took off. Mountain giant, that's another story. I seen it do some cannibalistic stuff. That was not fun. And it looked like a chimp. It looked like a giant chimp.
Oh, wow.
I mean, this thing looked like it was 16, 17, 18 foot high. It was ugly. It was big.
Ever seen a Genasqua?
No, what are you referring to? I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Genasqua, was it the stone giant?
Well, I've seen some major giants, but I don't know if that's what I want to label it. I mean, because sometimes people talk about these things and it's never been seen or photographed. I've got giants, I mean, that are way, way up there. And I've got comparison photos to go with it seconds later while it was gone. And yet the earth was literally untouched where it walked. And it walked through trees, walked through where cars and a house was, and it was all untouched. And I was like, wow. So I took that photograph by complete accident just because my cat was looking through the window and its eyes were bugging out of its head. And my cat is a real, he's an ornery cat. He's not afraid of anything. And he was like pulling its head back and he's like looking at the window, like, what the heck? And I looked out the window and I'm like, well, there's nothing there. What's he looking at? And I thought, I know how this goes. Give me my phone. And I took a picture and I literally my mouth just hit the floor. And I was like, I got to get another photo of that. And I took it again and it was gone. Wow. And where it was, it didn't disturb anything. The street light was like at his armpit and nothing was disturbed. Nothing. So it's like it's like our dogs and cats can see into this other realm. Mm-hmm. And I think it's like what they say where the veils or the parallel dimension is thin. It's there. It's just right there in its own realm. We're seeing it. And then it's gone because then it's out of that view or that little window that we had or that opportunity that we had. So it wasn't in our world, walking in our world. It was in its. And I think that's why we have these, I've got one footprint, but nothing else leading up to it or away from it.
Or stop. Or you'll be tracking a footprint.
You got a track line and it just ends. And then there was a situation where I don't live far from Chicago. Like hour and a half down the road and you're out in the middle of nowhere, if you take the fast highways anyway. But anyway, I get called downtown because people have footprints downtown along the I&M Canal and people are seeing these things and they're getting in their dumpster diving and things like that in their gardens and leaving their hoses on, turning their hoses on, which I have a problem. When we water the garden or tomatoes and stuff like that, we've got to unscrew it and then screw the knob back on because literally they will leave the water run all night on you. They will turn it on and then you got a mess or if you're paying water bills or things like that, it can get costly.
Yeah, you gotta go buy some of those spigot locks with the padlock and it locks up your little hose. But we got a question from Carlito, Cryptid and Paranormal Kingdom. He wants to know, says, do you think Sasquatch has the same gestation life longevity as humans do?
No, got proof of that.
So what is it more of? Is it more like a lower gestation or
higher?
Higher.
It's one of them died and it was literally close to, they had lived in this area forever. And there was a date. Excuse me, I got a cough again. Been outside all day.
That's okay. Allergies. Yeah, she's going to tell you the answer. She's answering now.
Yeah, I am. I'm here. I'm sorry. I've got the tickles and I can't help it.
That's all right.
Yeah, like I said, I've been out there all day. Weeds and everything's got me going. I didn't plan on doing a show tonight,
I know. You just kind of like, I called you like, hey, can you fill in? Because my guest kind of has a family emergency and he couldn't make it. So we discussed, you coming on. So here we are.
Okay, so here's a story for you. This is quite a long story if you're up for it,
Yeah.
but it talks about their age, and it talks about.
Oh, real quick. Someone was saying they wanted to see your photos. If you want to just put your Instagram out there so they can check your Instagram
Go
pictures.
to Whisper Walkers. It's all connected. Whisper Walkers on
Yeah.
Instagram. Yeah, go.
All right, you can go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, we were dealing with this particular Sasquatch that had been really giving with um, telepathy, giving us information, us asking culture questions, and all kinds of stuff. And we found out via his how we even met him and stuff. He was in like a suburb area, but it was along the I&M Canal. Like I told you, I had to go investigate because people were complaining, and we were out, and we accidentally come across this glowing eyes, a Sasquatch, and um to this day I'm friends with that guy, and my buddies that went with me, they go visit him and stuff. But we found out that, okay, so it was a family pod. It was an older brother that had like a preteen little brother, a mother, a father, a grandpa, and a grandma. Okay, just to put it in our terms so that you understand it and your listeners understand it. I'm going to talk in our people terms as best I can. Okay. So they were not far from a park that had actually, back in the day when they were starting to build the railroad and they started to use the waterways, the Illinois River and the Mississippi River, to move product down it for, barges would became a thing, and the mules would be pulling up, getting, stuff to build the railroad. It was dated 1865.
Hmm.
So they had all kinds of information on this board. So in talking with the Sasquatch, he had said that he had like his father's father that they would carry because his knees were locked.
Oh
Well,
wow.
we figured out that he had arthritis, and he said he was here back in the day. He was friends with an old one. Well, they've said many times to me, "Oh, you look like an old one. You have the cheeks of an old one." Well, yeah, my dad was full blooded, or my grandfather was full blooded Native American. He was a Sioux, and my dad was a half breed. And so he had heavy duty cheekbones, and I got blessed with them. So, yeah, I do kind of look that way,
Mm.
especially when I wear my hair straight. And so I said, the old ones. Now, what are you talking about with the old ones, And he says, well, you know, his grandfather, so you guys know what I'm saying, grandfather,
Mm.
was stating that he was here when they built this area. And I said, this area we're standing on, they built because there's an island there. And
Mm.
he says, yes, when they used to pull through the horses with the long ears and the long legs. And I was like, the mules. He's talking about mules, long
Mhm.
ears, long legs. I know horses, equestrian person here. So I said, he's talking about mules. I said, they would have used mules to deliver and take from what would have been coming down this canal. And this canal, consequently, that year we had drought. Now we're going back almost a decade or more. Okay. So going back at that time, we had suffered through a drought, and the whole canal area had some duck moss on it. The water was not flowing. And his little brother would be in tow with him, and he's messing around with that water and playing with that water, and you literally hear him scold him and say no. And I said, was that to us? Did we do something wrong? Did you say no to us? And he's like, no. And I'm getting confused here. And then I see the little one, or the younger one, and he was dragging him out of the water. And I said, is there a reason you don't want him in that water? And he says, he made my father sick, bringing back this water to drink. And I
Mm.
said, your father's sick? And he said, yes. And I didn't elaborate. because I'm trying to pull out all this information about the old one. Who's he talking about? Well, so it comes to find out he used to speak to an older Native American man that would come and meet him there, and he would bring him things to like tobacco and things. And so come to find out, we went back a couple weeks later, and he said that he didn't have time to speak with us, that he's busy taking care of not just his grandfather, carrying him in and out of what their like den would be.
Mm.
He called it their home, carrying him in and out of their like home area. And he said he was taking care of his sick father that he didn't think would live. And the one that drank the water,
Mm-hmm.
and he had said yes. And he said he's lost half of his body.
Mm.
And so I'm thinking he's really sick. He's got dysentery or something.
Yeah.
And so my friend, he knew of somebody that's a couple states away that is a doctor that would give us medicine for dysentery for a Sasquatch, because he believed in Sasquatch. Consequently, I won't say the state because I don't want to get anybody in trouble.
No.
Because it could be easy to pick out a doctor that's into Sasquatch and would give out medicine, would get in trouble, And literally, he gave us like baggies full of medicine, like gallon baggies. And so this medicine was yellow and blue, and they were antibiotics, and he had to take 2 a day of each of them. Now, try to go explain this to a Sasquatch. Try to teach them how to count. Try to teach them what 2 is. Finally, I did. I mean, it's taken me hours, and I'm telling him, okay, the blue ones are the color of the night sky. At night, 2 of these, no more. And in 2, I'm showing him 2 fingers, and I'm giving him in my mind. I'm saying 2. I'm doing everything. And finally, he comes across with a word, nuno. And then he honestly takes 2 rocks, is like nuno, and he throws them. 1, 2. And I'm like, good, you've got it. Yes. Okay, this is when the sky, it matches the color of the sky. Now we have 2 yellow ones. Okay. Now you got to do that when the sun comes up. It's the color of the sun. It's yellow. So you do this in the morning and this one at nighttime. They don't call it morning and night. So you're literally using the moon and you're using the sun. So that's how I'm describing it to them. And I said, you can't take no more and make it happen faster. It won't work like that. You'll make him sicker. You can't give him more to think it'll fix him. And you don't let anybody else get into these medicines, And you really, I mean, like I said, we were there for hours just trying to get this across. So we're taking this on ourselves. And we literally, if this guy dies and he's taking the medicine we're giving him, we're going to get the blame for it.
Oh, yeah, you're going to get the blame for it, and they probably look at you as like you killed his father.
Exactly. And do you know how pertinent that could be for somebody that's researching up and down that whole entire waterway? We would probably have a red flag on our heads and probably end up dead. So the whole time I am like nervous as all get out. And my buddy, he was like, we got to do it. We got to save him. And he's like, if we save him, they'll be happy with us. And I was like, yeah, but if they die, they're not going to be happy with us, So I was really nervous. And I literally wanted to go back there as often as I could, because it was a long truck from where I lived to get there. And we would go back there. It was like it would take 4 hours out of our day to get to this area. So we would do it, and we would go back and we'd go back and we'd check and check and check. And then we counted the days and was like, okay, stop the medicine. No more. You should have no more pills, right? No more. And he says, no, gone. He knew. He was learning our language, just like getting in our head or something. And it was crazy cool. But we actually saved him, and we took him lots of fluids. This is the one time that I agreed that we could take fluids, and we took Gatorade and Hawaiian Punch. And it's crazy. We started something because that little one would get into it and it wanted it. And so every time we went there, he would be asking for it and wanting to see what we had. And oh, it was nuts. You start something like that, you can't stop it.
That's like giving a kid candy for the first time. It's like going to
Yeah.
they keep wanting it.
But ultimately, we did save that Sasquatch's life.
That's amazing.
And that is now, it's like, now you can go there and ask them anything or anything about their people. And because they're not bound by a clan rule or a clan leader, where they only give you so much information or they only go so far with you, and then that's it. You're cut off. You're those little naked humans, and get away from us. No, he would actually do anything for us we ask, and he gives us all kinds of information. And that's where I've gained a lot of my cultural knowledge, has been from that particular little group pod or family pod.
That's
and
awesome.
so the old man dies later, not the father, but the grandfather.
Right.
He dies later. And so we were wanting to know how old he is in our years, because we know that their time band moves different than ours. Their time seems to be different. And so we took the dates that were on there and how he had said he was his age. And so we figured out how old the one that we were talking to all the time, we were using landmarks. We were saying, was that building here? Was that building there? Was that there? And we figured out that the one we were dealing with was probably like later 20s or 30 years old. And the grandfather would have been the same age as him when he came there. So he would have been there around 1900. So now do the math, or the 1800s, when he made the friend, he would have been the same age. And it was 1864 when they had built that park. So that relatively makes him double the age of what we would be when we would die. So they're like twice as old as us when they die of natural causes.
Wow. Yeah, I think what Janice Carter's red or fox. I think he was like 100 and something years old when he died. If you
that's
story.
Yeah.
He was like 140 or 130. I forget. It was like 100 and something years old when he passed.
That would be like double our age. I don't know about that because I knew Mary Green and I know there was some discrepancies of some information she was given and stuff. So I just dismiss. I try to just dismiss anything that's been given to me by word of mouth or somebody else and just go based on my own research. Because I can't trust it these days. There's been way too much. I was here when Facebook just came out, like a lot of people. There was literally one group on Facebook we had, and you only had about 200 of us in there that were actual serious-minded people that were doing active things.
Boots on the ground, active research.
Yes,
not the keyboard warrior stuff,
Not the keyboard warrior stuff, and not the people out there.
Armchair warriors.
Yes, and not the people out there that think that every marking out there, oh, it doesn't mean this, it means that, it's for that, it's for this. It's got nothing to do with us. There's not one marking or one structure out there that is for us or about us. It's all about them and it's all for them. So even when you talk Survivor Man and who he went trapping through the woods with, and this guy saying, oh, this means this and this means that. And I'm like going, oh my God, I can't watch this stuff on TV anymore. It gives me a migraine. I end up yelling at the TV. I'm like, where do you get that information?
Well, not only that,
that's not right.
When you have a guy, I don't want to say his name because,
I'm careful. I've been very careful.
I'm just saying those slanders. I heard this guy takes people out for $5,000 to see Bigfoot out in.
Oh God, I've heard that too.
And apparently, everyone that's worked with him doesn't want to deal with him anymore, including Survivor Man as well. So I won't go there, but yes.
That's why I went ahead and said Survivor Man's name because I heard that he dismissed it. So that's why I didn't mind saying it. I love Les Stroud. He's a great guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I actually love Les Stroud. But awesome. I think he made a bad decision with that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, Duke. Well, Bigfoot Radio just put his name. Oh, he kind of contemplated partially naming. But Carlito has a question about what's your take on LBO? If he might have missed when you were talking about it before.
Take on what? Get more
LBO,
specific. What's he specifically asking?
the land between the lakes.
Yeah, but what's his specific question about it?
All right, Carlito, you heard the lady. What's your specific question about LBO? Because she was talking about it before. What do you want to know? Well, I'll let you do your thing. You can keep going on, but that was an awesome encounter. But I also plan on having Janice Carter on in the future, so I can get right to the, right to the chase and cut out all the middlemen and get her, tell her story on the story of LBO. Well, I think he's talking about the Dogman attack, the family with the camper.
Okay, so we're talking back when there was that there was a guy that was on the radio, and he did the only interview that was going to be out, and that he seen them and he knew those people and all that stuff. I think that's what he's referring to. I listened to the interview like 5 times, just being anal, just trying to find loopholes or anything that told me this is true or this isn't true. And I was not a fan of the story. I mean, I know that it happened, and I know that there was some people that were tore up and killed and whatnot, but I don't know about the dude that says he knew him and all that, and he seen the act, the whole mess of it or whatever. I do believe it happened. I know Ben Pedler, he did a lot of research on that, and Ben Pedler is a really good guy, and he talked to a lot of people. He talked to a lot of guys that were there on the scene and things like that, and I would trust Ben over some strange guy that just pops up and says, well, I was there and I know the people. Yeah. I would trust what Ben got out of law enforcement and got out of the locals before I would trust just some guy that randomly shows up.
Not only that, the story was investigated by multiple people that were former law enforcement, and they all got the same stories. The 4 people, the mom, the father, the son,
that's what I'm talking about. I trust. Yeah. I tend to trust the researchers that were actually respected enough that the law enforcement people would even work with them.
Jody Cook, Nick Valente, those guys were, military, former law enforcement. They even had their own investigation stuff and interviewing people and so what. So that being said, I mean, how could you not take that, with a
grain of salt?
Yeah. You take the grain of salt with the one from the new guy that just comes out for the 15 minutes of fame, but that's my opinion. I mean, you can't.
Yeah, none of us were really there. None of us can really say
exactly
what happened. You just asked for my opinion. My opinion is, and I'm not going to say this is how it is, because you can't make blanket statements when you weren't there yourself.
Exactly. Only the people that were, dead men don't talk. So that's the only way you can figure that one out.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, but I think we can wrap it up if you're okay with that. And World Bigfoot Radio, I'd like to, in the future, if you can come on sometime in the next couple of months or so, reach out to me on the Facebook group, or you're not on Facebook, so send me your email somehow. Maybe type it in here and I can get back to you because I want to get you on soon. But Shel, it was really good having you on tonight. Do you have anything else you want to talk about? I mean, we have.
Oh no. Are you saying to me you need my contact information?
I was talking to World Bigfoot Radio, Duke.
Oh, okay, Duke. Yes.
I have all your information. Duke's awesome. He's got some cool stuff. He's got a lot of.
Yeah, he does. I know. I've listened to his stuff, and we share a really good mutual friend that thinks the world of him, and actually a couple really good. And I'd like to thank him for backing me up one time. I come forward with cat people and pictures of cat people when nobody was doing it. And so a mutual friend reached out to him and said, hey, have you ever heard of this? And he's like, oh, yeah. Yeah. He told him all about him. And he's like, yep. Okay, it's true. So, yeah, thanks for backing me up, Duke. I've never met you, but I'd like to talk to you sometime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he even says it. They got info from the KY DNR, which is the Kentucky DNR, who actually lived the closest to the incident. First thing they did was get civilians out, call in local law. Then the military kill team came in, and the law left, and the DNR guys stayed. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Nice information there. Thank you. Good to know. I hope that
absolutely.
helped the other guy that had questions.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. What's your channel? World Bigfoot Radio. Yeah, Carlito, World Bigfoot Radio is a YouTube channel. He doesn't do Facebook. I, I don't do things on Facebook much more except for my group either. So Facebook has really become the scrutiny of the world social media platform ever since they had their little shutdown, little stunt with the Instagram.
Their hiccup. Yeah.
But that's a whole nother theory that I won't even get into because I don't want to get my Facebook shut down. So I won't go down that rabbit hole.
I hear you. Yeah, definitely.
There's Telegram, there's Mewy, there's BitChute. There's so many other platforms out there to get your social media and platform information across. So it is what it is. Yeah.
Somebody there was asking questions for a picture. What picture were they wanting exactly?
I think they just wanted to see pictures. That's why I said something about your Instagram.
Oh,
so
okay.
They can see the pictures on your Instagram because you have a lot of good pictures on your Instagram.
And I don't put everything out there. Some of the best stuff I never even share unless you come to me personally.
I haven't even gotten it. Yeah.
We keep talking about doing that, and we never get together.
I know. We got to get together.
We got to get together on that. It's just I'm so drawn and spread so thin in so many ways. But hey, I'll be back home November 3rd, and I'll probably want some downtime, and that'll probably be the week to hit me up because I'm going to be wanting to rest. Don't you get more tired when you do vacation, right?
Yeah, it's funny because when we go to the beach, every 4th of July, we spend a week at Topsail Beach in North Carolina or Topsail Island in North Carolina. It's not too far from the Outer Banks. And it's like every night, like 9 o'clock, I'm just drained and done and ready for bed. But I'm also drinking like margaritas at the beach all day long and kicking back beers. And so being in the sun, drinking alcohol, it really tires you out. But still, vacation does wear you out no matter what you're doing.
Yeah. But I think I could go for the beach and margaritas anytime. Yeah, that sounds better. Let's do that. Yeah. No, I always end up doing what I'm doing right now. It's just it gets in you, and it never gets out of you.
I really would like to get her my I guess somebody wants their email.
My email, or they want to give me their email.
I guess they want to give you their email. It says get her, but I'm sure they're meaning give her.
Or is it somebody that you know very well? You could just get it and then give it to me or whatever.
Yeah, it's a listener. Overbuilt Automotive. Just send your email to me, tomcardos1@gmail.com, and I will take care of it and I'll send it over to Miss Shel because she's a friend of mine and she trusts me. So.
Yeah,
at least I hope you trust me.
I'm just kidding. Got to make it fun. What good is it if we don't have fun? And we gotta, that's what I want to put out there real quick. If you just give me like just a few more minutes, I want to say this to the listeners. So much more can be learned if we lose the whole judgmental thing with each other. Stop being so keyboard warish and just open yourself up a little bit, because you never know, that person that posted something in whatever group you were in or whatever, wherever you're at, that person that posted, it could be their very first post, and it may have taken them a couple years or even a decade or more to come forward and share their story, and you shut them down instantly. You don't know what you could have gained by just letting them talk and people on the thread talk and work with them, because, nothing is going to go any further forward if we don't start collaborating together and make this a unified thing and stop being petty. There's so much petty out there with the social media and so much judgment. We need to really start collaborating. And, I personally know this from everybody that I've ever dealt with that has Sasquatch intense habituation. People are really quick to judge them. because they've experienced telepathy or they've experienced nighttime dream type stuff and all these crazy things that happen with Sasquatch, because there is really crazy stuff. But we need to start really listening and taking it a little bit from here and a little bit from there. That doesn't mean you have to believe everything you hear, because there's definitely people out there trying to get their 15 minutes of fame. There's people out there trying to hoax. There, you got to use a little bit of common sense, but at the same time, just leave it alone, because who comes on and actually talks on some thread, even if it's the person that actually posted you didn't believe or you didn't like their story, it's those people that feel open, like this person said that, well, I could share this. And then you get to learn something, or you get to take a little something from something. And all these people that habituate, it's like they get so much information, or they're given so much information from the Sasquatch, and then it just stops, or they don't get any more on that, or they don't know how to go further with it, or they're just given a message and that's what they share with the world. But if they, and it never seems to add up to be the same. It's like one or two people may have the same information, but then you find that, well, this person has more on that topic and this person has more on that topic. And if you just sit back and pay attention, I think they're literally trying to communicate with the humans by not giving themselves up too much in one location, and that keeps them safe. There's comfort in numbers, and there's comfort in, I ain't gonna give my enemy too much information on myself, because I'm not gonna get myself out there and get damaged. And so maybe when we're looking worldwide, or even North America, because that's who we're usually dealing with. I mean, yeah, we do go worldwide, and definitely Canada. So North America, just say that much. If we could just all collaborate and take a little bit from each other, we might end up with a lot of information at some point. Because even though I know a lot about a little, or a little bit about a lot, you know what? It's not going to do me any good if I can't take that further and collaborate with other people. And that's what I do in my work. I work on collaborating with other people. So if you're out there and you're afraid to come forward, or you're afraid to talk about your experience, I'm open. Come to me. I'm not doing podcasts out there for myself. I don't have a radio show. I do this because I love it. And I do this because I really want the whole world to be at peace. And I want to know all that we can know, and hopefully gain or get somewhere and move forward in the next decade. Because in the last 2 decades, all we've done is spin our wheels with each other, and a lot of people cause a lot of heartache, and they leave social media and they stay to themselves, and then you've lost somebody. You've lost a link here. So I just want to get that out there, and I thank you for giving me the platform to do that, Tom.
I really appreciate you having me on, and everything you said is perfectly dead on. Even World Bigfoot Radio, he says, there are no experts in the ranks of civilians. The government intel knows all about them, and they aren't talking. So you're absolutely right about that.
Yep.
The other thing is, there's a lot of people that get chastised for putting pictures up in some of these groups, and a lot of people get, because their picture got chastised, whether it's real or not, or whether they think it's real. These are the people that are actually getting up off their ass, getting into the woods, putting themselves in dangerous situations, and taking pictures. So why are you going to crucify the person that's actually getting up off their ass and they're not sitting at a computer looking at pictures all day? You're getting up off your butt, looking at, taking pictures, going in the woods, trying to find things. That's what it's about.
Good on you. Good on you.
Not everyone can do that, though. Some people.
Well, yeah, even me. I mean, the most outrageous, great photographs, and you know what? It's like the better the photograph, then they start calling you a hoaxer.
Yeah.
And then you get some of these people that I do want to laugh at, because there'll be a picture of a park bench and they got a bunch of tiny little circles all around it in the leaves, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but even the tiniest of Sasquatch, its face is bigger than a quarter. That kind of stuff and a bunch of red circles gets on my nerves. But do I say anything? Scroll past it. If you haven't got nothing nice to say, then don't say anything at all. Because you know what? If you stop on that post and you typed, I don't have enough hours in the day. If you typed and you start an argument, and you get fixated on that, what did you miss that was awesome? in some other place or some other group or some other post. So you're only doing yourself a disservice out there if you're being the jerk.
Exactly.
Really, you only judgment only clouds your own reality. That's the truth.
Yep, you're right. You're right. Absolutely right. So, everybody, you have a great night. Thanks for coming on and being on, in the live chat and just supporting this channel. Because I don't try to make money off this. I love the passion for the subject. I like to go out and into the woods and get evidence and do my research. And I just like to have people on it know more about it than I do and learn from them, because it's a learning process. Because you can't go thinking you know everything, because there's still even these even some experts still have things they don't know. So you want to learn.
We learn our whole lives.
Exactly.
We never stop. We just keep on learning. And if you close yourself off from that, well, then that's your problem. But it's good, thank you to people like you that are humble and take the time out of your life to do this. Tom, you're an amazing guy for doing so. And thank you to all the other researchers out there that are busting your butts out there to do what we do here with Whisper Walkers. And collaborate with us. We're open people. I'm ready to hear it. I'm ready to talk.
Well,
so good on you folks.
If you're ever in North Carolina, you know where to hit me up, and we could go to my area and show you what it's all about. So, and I guess the same for me if I come by Michigan, Chicago,
Illinois. No, it's like Central Illinois.
Okay, yeah. Well, if I'm ever in that area, I'll definitely
hit me up.
Check your area out. So, well, okay. If you want to just stay on for a minute before after I end this, we'll have a little end session. Then I'll drop your you can drop out. So everybody, good night. Thank you again, and next week there will be no show. I'm taking a break for Halloween because I got to take the kiddies trick or treating. So y'all have a great week, and I'll see you back in November 6th.